What's up, everybody? This is Jimmy with Trading Decoded. It is June 5th, 2025, and the market is cray-cray today day. With that said, it was a wonderful time for our community. It was a wonderful morning. We found some great opportunities, both to the downside and the upside, all of which paid out pretty well, all of which followed our rules, which you can find right here in this book. You should buy that. There's good stuff in there. And you should also join our Discord community. I'd love to have you. The link is down below in the video description of every single video that I post. Guys, there's no excuse to not give me a try, okay? I assure you I will teach you something that's going to benefit you in your trading. Whether you stay with me or not as a paying member is completely up to you. But I think you owe it to yourself, especially if you've tried everything else. Give me a chance. I simplify it in a way that's palatable and works. With that said, let's go ahead and take a look at the charts and figure out what we did today. So, as always, first let me show you. When I captured this screenshot, it was probably 2 hours ago, 3 hours ago maybe, but we had 13 reds and almost 100 greens. So basically an 9 to 1 ratio, pretty good day. With that said, just like every other day, we do a call put scenario and we try and figure out how we're going to do this. Well, the put line was if we can get below 529.69, I would like to see SPY or Qs rather make it all the way down to the pre-market midline. Why? Because below that support, the next support was right here. It's very simple. It's not a difficult thing to understand. What's difficult is bringing yourself to have the confidence to take the trade, and the way we work around that or work with that is simply stack as many probabilities in our favor as we can. It's easier said than done because emotions, but the technical side of the way I trade, guys, is super simple. With that said, the call line was if we can get above 530.79, we'd be hoping to make it to the to this orange dotted line. As you can see, there is an alert there and alert there. We set them so that becomes our profit targets in whichever direction that we decide that we're going to take. Now, right out of the gate, I had told everybody I was going to be prepared for puts. Not for any other reason other than if the market was going to move up, I would have had more time to switch from puts to calls. Whereas if the market was going to open up down here, say below this orange dotted line, I wasn't going to have enough time to switch to puts if I needed to. It's the only reason I was prepared for puts. Now, with that said, right out of the gate, we started to print some green. Now, as this was happening on the Qs, I was recognizing that SPY was still stuck below the pink line, but then as just a couple of seconds passed and I said to everybody, I'm not taking these calls. And of course, there's got to be justification for why. Well, the reason is even though this ADD candle pretty much opened as a solid green candle, almost immediately it started to develop this big wick on top. Now, I told everybody, guys, we are at the pink line on SPY, i.e. resistance. We are at resistance on the Qs. And that wick right there is telling me that sellers are fighting like hell to prevent the market from going up. Okay? Didn't mean to jump into puts yet. However, as we are sitting here at this resistance on both charts, a strong one at that, I said, guys, if ADE starts printing red here, this might be a good reason to get into puts aggressively, even if it's only to take us down to our put line. Well, as luck would have it, not luck, as my decision making would have it, I was already prepared for puts, got into these, not at the top, probably halfway through this candle. With that expectation, I was hoping, obviously, because ADD was printing red, that would carry us through the support. It brought us right through the support and almost touched our target within the second candle. Okay, now I hung on to this trade because we didn't hear the beep. Now I have a problem. If I set an alert on a chart, that's the kiss of death for me. It's either a good thing or it's a bad thing, because if we don't get to that beep, a lot of times I become a hold and hoper, and that's not a good thing. But fortunately, as things worked out today, it wasn't too much of an issue. So we did get down. I didn't take my exit here. We pulled back. Now, on the Qs chart, this was a very uncomfortable pullback looking at the Qs chart, but take a look at the SPY chart. SPY never really even pulled back, so I never saw red in my trade at all, despite the fact that the Qs were pulling back. Why was that happening? Well, that's a great question, and it's a pretty easy answer. At this time, ADD's effect on SPY was stronger than the Q's effect on SPY was, which is rare, but it does happen sometimes. Okay, so I stayed in this trade. I was hoping we were going to get a lower high. I was hoping ADD stayed printing red to keep SPY from moving back, and I got what I hoped for. Okay, after the Qs put in this lower high right here, I felt way more comfortable about our move, making it down to our alert, which it did just a few minutes later. I took myself out of the trade at that point. Was a 69.91% win, something like that. Beautiful trade. Lots of people made some money on that trade. It was awesome. And that was my work day for the day. Now I stay on the mic and we try to find some other trades setups to take. And as ADD continued to drop, we were more looking for puts because lower highs are bad for calls. And what were you looking for when we're looking for puts? Well, we're looking for pullbacks to resistances on both charts. It's a very simple concept, okay? This was an old support. It's held this support here. We closed below it. It pulled back to that support, which oftentimes turns into resistance. It did. This candle, both of them were green, and we were at resistance. The next candle, it's holding resistance. ADD is red for the second candle in a row. Let's go. Where are we aiming for? Well, first and foremost, we're hoping to make it down to this current support. If we get through that support, we're hoping to make it down to the next blue line. If we get through that, we're hoping to make it down, so on and so forth. Well, and as that all happened, another banger of a trade, I might say, all called out. All of this is talked about beforehand, guys. Once we hit down here, I recognized that both charts are on support at the same time, and ADD started to print some green candles. Didn't mean the market couldn't move lower. It just meant that probabilities or momentum for that moment at that time was waning, right? If you're on support on two charts and the momentum of the market, even if it's temporary, is moving in the opposite direction, it's not a good idea to hold on to those trades, in my opinion. But that's just my opinion. Call me a scaredy cat, but I'm a profitable trader and my way works for me. Just tweak it to work for you, okay? Whatever it is that you want to do, just have reasons and rules for every choice that you make so that there's no surprises when you're in your trades, okay? The whole point of these lines of support and resistance is to use them so you know where you might start to run into problems should you be in a trade. If you're in puts, then each one of these lines as we move down potentially is where, it's not potentially, buyers existed there before. It's good information to have. Whether you get out of your trade at that point or not is up to you, but you should have reasons for why you stay in it. Okay? For me, I had an alert set and I was willing to take my profits when we got there. When we got there, ADD was still dropping. And even if I didn't get out there, I would have stopped out on the very next candle anyway, because then ADD was starting to print green while Qs were struggling to move lower. So nonetheless, I would have gotten out at the same time. But when I hear that beep, that's my go signal. To basically lock in my profits pretty much every time. We find support here, we move up, we put in a lower high. Now at this point, ADD is back to printing red. If you bought puts here, pull back to resistance, okay, old support, new resistance. You're hoping for first and foremost to get back down to this same support. That didn't happen here. We put in a higher low. Now that usually means higher lows are bad for calls or for puts. So if you're in puts, I use that as a reason to take myself out of the trade. Okay? The only reason I would stay in a trade to see if it's going to continue down is if ADD is still printing red at the time that this higher low looks to be putting in. That's the only difference, okay? Now, we did pull back, and I always tell everybody if you're buying pullbacks, that pullback that you bought, a close above that has to become your stop loss. It didn't close above that until this candle here. Now, if you held on to those puts, it did make it finally down to this support, but we had a really hard time getting through that support, okay? Plus, ADD had started to put in higher lows and started trending in the opposite direction as it was in the morning. Then Here's a trade that didn't work, right? If we can get above these resistances, we are hoping to make it up to the next resistance. Well, that would have gotten you in on this candle here. ADD was printing big green candles. And what happened? It turned around, got smacked down, and you had to stop out of that trade for a loss. It doesn't work 100% of the time, guys. It just doesn't. ADD looked good. Break of resistance looked good. Everything would normally have me believe that we're more likely to move up than down. So in that case, that was a losing trade. I marked them as yellow because when they're marked as red, it's hard to tell the difference between red and pink. Pink are always my trades. White are trades that we identified before they were trades, but they're just not trades I take. I don't like to trade more than one time per day if I can make enough money in a single trade. There's no reason to put on additional risk. If I hit my number, and I usually do in my first trade of the day, there's no need to put my profits at risk. And I would recommend that you guys consider doing the same thing as well. Here's another one that was, this was not a huge winner, but a similar setup to over here. We pull back, it's a lower high. ADD at the time was printing red. Okay, so all we're doing is hoping to make it down to this support. We were struggling to make it down to that support. And I said to everybody, guys, we're on supports on both charts right now. We're having a hard time moving lower. You might want to take your profits here because if this turns into a higher low, we're more likely to go up than not. Okay, same explanation for over here. The only difference was not only did it end up being a higher low and people who were in this trade could get out with a small win or a break even. Look what happened this time. The same thing we were hoping for here, just a few short minutes later, did exactly what we were hoping for. Exactly what we were hoping for. Walked a lot of people through that trade. It was a beautiful trade. Ended up working out quite nice. First target was right here. If we got above that, the second target was the orange line. If we got above that, the next target was right here at 530.04. That was the number. As you can see, we wicked up there, and then that's as high as it wanted to go for that moment. Okay. Now, our normal rules to go from calls to puts is a break of the trend line, and then we want to take out the most recent support after doing so. If there is room after breaking that support to the next support, that's the trade. Check your ADD, make sure it's printing red as luck would have it, or as whatever momentum would have it. All of the things held true on this candle right here, and you had a long way to go to make money. I think that was a $1.50 drop. That's a beautiful trade, guys. And again, this is part of our normal trade rules. This is not a secret. This is not a special setup. This is, we broke trend, we broke support, momentum, i.e. ADD, is going down. Let's go. Where are we expecting to go? To the next support down, which is right here. And as you could see, not only did it hit it, it bounced right off of it and started to move its ass to the upside again. Okay, then what are we looking for? Well, what is this? This is a higher low, which means we're more likely to break resistance, not hold it. And if we do have green candles or ADD's printing green, you can get into that trade aggressively. And where are we aiming to go? Well, hopefully to the call line, which is where resistance was before, which would have gotten you out here. Or if you were playing the call line, which we talked about before, I said, guys, if we make it from down here all the way up to the call line, it's in play because we'll have to break through a bunch of resistances to get there. That's just going to squeeze out some sellers, turn them into buyers. So if you were patient and you waited for the call line with better opportunity or better chances than this one, this paid. You had to be quick, but it paid. Okay. After that, most of the people were done, but we chopped around a little bit and then we got stuck on this resistance right here. Now this ended up being a monster move. We were talking about the idea that this is an extremely strong resistance on SPY. If you go back on a 30-minute chart, look at all day yesterday, we could not get a candle close on the 30-minute chart above this orange line right here. And so the thought process oftentimes is, for us anyway, if we are able to break a strong level of support or resistance, the move typically is explosive, could be big. Doesn't guarantee it, but that's the way I look at it, okay? Because there's a lot of energy trying to keep price from going above that. Well, that energy is going to be released in the form of buying from the shorts that are creating it, oftentimes, if you can get through it. So the Qs were stuck at a similar line too. Now, I was telling people, guys, I wouldn't do anything right here because we're putting in higher lows on the Qs, we're putting in higher lows on SPY because people wanted to short the market here. It's understandable. And I said, I wouldn't do it unless ADD is printing red. So if you're going to do it, make sure both charts are at resistance. Make sure ADD is printing red. If you're going to do that, that's fine. Just know that it's a counter trend trade. Know that you're not going to be looking for a big move. If you're going to take it, but read the room. Okay, read the room, the market. If you start to see it's struggling to move down to the next support, or you start to see a plethora of wicks on the bottom of these things, just know that that's buyers trying not to let it fall. Now, after this higher low on the Qs and a higher low on the SPY, I said puts is definitely not something I'd be concerned with now, because we are now more likely to break through this resistance than not. Qs got through the resistance first, which made this a non-factor for me. Qs had plenty of room to move. What was keeping the Qs from moving up was SPY's strong resistance. Brock, if you're out there, good job today, buddy. And the people in my community can vouch for these conversations, guys. I'm not on here just talking shit. This is not after the fact trading. These are all things that we are discussing in real time, waiting for the opportunity to be taken, okay? Qs gave us the okay. We just needed SPY to get through this resistance. After 1, 2, in the third higher low, I said to everybody out loud, I said, guys, this is basically like a super wedge. This thing's gonna bust up. I hope nobody's a short. We had some people that were already in put or in calls. Just needed a little bit of oomph, and boy, did we get it. That thing blew right through several lines to the upside and crawled its way up. Now, as we move through, I always like to use old resistances. They need to stay as supports if we're going to stay in the trade. So we did close out, or I would have stopped out here because we closed below support. Doesn't mean it can't go higher. It just means that I don't want to give up any more profit than that amount. That's just me. It did move up a little bit higher, and as you can see, all of our lines held today. Speaking of lines, by the way, if you guys don't know how to chart support and resistance, today was an absolute clinic on how well support resistance levels actually hold most of the time. If you're interested in learning how to chart like I do, we do live charting sessions every Tuesday morning. It's the key to everything that we do. It's the key to my trading strategy. If you do have my book, I think it was on page 70 or 72 of the book. At the bottom of that page, there is a link that has specific videos made for you as a purchaser of the book that teaches you exactly how to chart the way that I do. So even if you're not a member in my community, feel free to take advantage of those videos, guys. It's really good stuff in there. After that, it was past 12 o'clock and I wasn't here, but there was many opportunities today, even after 12 o'clock. Theta is increasing. The market's out of its mind, and that's okay. You got to do what's best for you and your money. I prefer to have nice early work days. I don't know about you. To me, sitting in front of this computer, watching charts all day long is not something that I'm looking forward to doing for a living. If you can get comfortable and confident in what you're doing, guys, the market is an excellent way to provide you some additional income or your only source of income in a very short period of time. Okay. Now, with that said, I hope you found some useful information in this video. If you did, please like, share, and subscribe. If you'd like to join our Discord community, as I had mentioned before, there are links down below. I would be honored to have you. Give me a try. Okay. Just give me a shot. You can think I'm full of shit. You can call me a naysayer. You can do whatever you want. It doesn't hurt you because it's completely free. I'm not asking you to put any payment information in. It's free. Just jump in and give it a shot. If you don't like it, thanks for stopping by. I hope you learned something new. Also, if you can't be in our Discord all day long like the rest of these folks, consider buying my book. As I said earlier, everything you need to know is in there if you're trying to learn how to trade the same way that I do and several other people do. I also hope you made some money in the markets today. If you did, congratulations. Protect your profits. If you did not, I am sorry. Review what went wrong and try and do better. If you may have done nothing wrong, the setups just may have been right, but the trade didn't work out. That happens too. Don't beat yourself up for that. All right. With that said, I hope you all enjoy the rest of your day. Till tomorrow, I love you guys. See ya.